Okay, Satnam. So I like to talk about the positive side of things. First of all, as you've noticed around here, most of the yoga, not everyone, but most of the yoga world is about 80% women, 20% men, right? It's a little different in some. I tend to attract the Shakti squad, but it's all. This still doesn't work, so maybe this means this is. We got a lot of. Oh, there it is. You just turn on the on button. Okay, perfect. Okay, it's going to be a good class. We're hitting a stride here. Can you guys feel it? So I like to keep it on the positive side. So we have like 80% women for the most part, maybe 70, maybe 75, maybe whatever, 60, some days. And the Hadi Jivan attracts a lot of the guys, whatever. And I was saying this to a couple of the women, but I highly recommend, leaving the guys who are coming to yoga alone because they're usually oh. But that's just I'm just giving you some advice. I mean, whatever you want to do. But so there's a couple men in here who've come, which I'm really happy because you guys, of course, present company totally excluded. I mean it though. But part of what's great about that is that one thing that's happening around the kind of definition, the defining of a new archetype of feminine power, both in women, but also the kind of shifting of the ages, which is requiring this kind of energy of the divine mother, the divine feminine, to kind of rise back up out of a slumber of thousands of years of these kind of dark ages. And Yogi Bhajan Guajan said that when the mantra Adi Shakti, or the technology of the Adi Shakti, was forgotten in the East, in India and in Asia, when this technology was forgotten, that this is actually a kind of an imprint of the great kind of matriarch on the hill with her arms like this, and they would worship her. That was a matriarchal or a matrilineal kind of society. So this was part of that whole kind of technology of man or human born of woman. If woman is disrespected, bibbity bobbity boo, what do we get? Rome, Trump, Rome, Trump, Rome, Trump, Trump, Rome. And as you know, we'll go down into Trump, Rome, Rome, Trump. Wait, I'm in a glitch. But what will go down in history from our last Men's Grace was my spoken word performance of a poem actually written by a man. He's a Nordic man of some sort. I'm sure he's really hot. We'd like to meet you, man. I can't pronounce your name, but like I go through Oslo every couple of months. So he's some Nordic guy, and he wrote this poem called "Dark Mother Scream." And the whole kind of poem is about the last sentences of the poem, and we do a lot of performance in Immense Grace because part of becoming a leader and part of becoming the kind of woman that you want to become, you have to get over your self-consciousness and that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of performance, a lot of Dharma art. So everybody has to perform, but I performed this poem, and the last line is basically just remember that Rome fell when Dark Mother Scream was forgotten. So these great kind of civilizations and these great cycles of time, they're the forgetting of the technology, or as Guru Nanak, also a man, said, I'm going to play a little bit of this mantra. Basically, a man born of woman or human born of woman, when he misunderstands that relationship or that alignment, both woman and man, when they misunderstand the kind of worship of that power of creation, the Adi Shakti, then the society becomes what? Destructive. Very, very destructive. And not just destructive, in our neighborhoods, or the crime, or the way that we've kind of idolized sports figures, but you don't pay teachers, or just all of these kind of massive societal issues that we have, that we're facing. Not just that destructiveness, but self-destructiveness. So man born of woman who doesn't respect herself, and man who can't get the imprint of that respect, then will grow up and be a destructive man. And we have a lot of these guys in charge right now. But as I said, a couple of days ago on Independence Day, is that a Will Smith movie? America, Will Smith, America, Will Smith. So, as I said that day, the dinosaurs go extinct. And this is what Andy gave me this. We were talking beforehand. Dinosaurs go extinct, and because of the limbic brain of the animal, it knows that it's going extinct. So, and this has nothing to do with, because the way that this has nothing to do with gender. This is why I think it's really good and Ram Dudham and I have been talking about this as well. It's good for the women to hear the men's teachings. It's good for the men to hear the women's teachings. It's so helpful because we all want to do better. We want better relationships. We want societies that work for everyone. We want neighborhoods that are safe. We want schools that are good education, so the future, is educated in a way of decency and dignity. We want creative genius. As I say to the young people all the time, if we don't get Chase's generation and younger, if we don't receive the benefit of the genius of these newer generations, then we're not going to make it through this particular little hiccup on the planet. We need genius technological and otherwise societal, all sorts of kind of levels of genius. And so it's very important that the kids be educated. This is what we're doing with Rama Foundation. We have a big announcement with Rama Foundation very soon. We're very excited about what's about to happen, but it's one of our main missions is educating the future. So, man born of woman, woman doesn't respect herself, or woman doesn't like herself, or woman, has been patterned in some way in a society that's forgotten the dark mother scream and the imprint of, basically we live in a society that if you're after a certain age, this for a woman, just so the guys know this, Los Angeles is insane this way. It's not like this in every part of the world, but this is an extreme example. If you're over a certain age, you basically become a non-entity in society. In this particular, the madness of this particular, and that's, because we have no place for our elders, and it's true of men too, but particularly of women. And we have no kind of initiation rites into what it would mean to be a woman of holding a great wisdom, a wisdom keeper, and what the value of that. And because of that, which comes originally from the loss of literally the permutation combination of some of these wisdom kind of teachings on this planet, that human born of woman who doesn't respect herself, who sells herself on the cheap, who disrespects herself, who is, not grounded in her own dignity and all of these other things. Human born of that woman will be destructive. They'll be destructive to others. They'll be competitive. They'll be destructive. They'll be envious. They'll be all of the, what it said, 7 deadly sins, all of those. And particularly, they'll be self-destructive. So we're just we can look around and see lots of examples of that. And this is why Yogi Bhajan committed 40 years of intensive training to the training of the women of the future, so that when what is happening right now on the planet happens, and it's happening right now on the planet, we're just in the last kind of gasp of the just pain and violence on everyone, enacted on the whole society, not gender specific. What's happened in the past several thousand years has affected everyone. It's not gender specific, and in fact, most of the work that we do in the women's work is to clear a lot of the emotional, commotional fear and anger and terror and the things that we are unprocessed with as women, because we're carrying that epigenetic. And then, in this room alone, almost every woman has either been severely sexually harassed, sexually abused, or raped. Those are the statistics. So in this room alone, almost every woman has had some experience of that. So that affects the whole society, because the women create the baseline frequency of the future. We create the children, and then we educate the children, because the mother's the first teacher. And the most important teacher, the mother. So Yogi Bhajan knew what we were up against and what the change of the age that we were going into. And he, like the Dalai Lama and another incredible teacher of ours from Nepal, who was the Rinpoche, some of you have heard me tell this story, who slapped both me, Guru Jagat, and Hari Jivan. But with Guru Jagat, he kind of had her by the turban, and it was hilarious. He just smacked me right across my face. Love. Guru love. We don't have any place for that in the West. That would be a lawsuit. But in the East, that's the blessing of the teacher. He was like, get it together. He was totally, it was awesome. And all of us, of course, watched as he did it to Hari Jivan. We were like, but he is a Rinpoche. Basically, he's devoted his whole life to not creating monasteries, but creating nunneries. And in the Tibetan system, it's like it's different than like a Catholic nunnery, but that's the word for it. But a place where women can be educated and be leaders, spiritual leaders, and also their householders, so they can be mothers and that kind of thing. But we asked him, why did you commit your life to this? He's the only Rinpoche I've ever met who doesn't have monasteries. He has these places he's created to educate women. And he's so beautiful. His name is Gyampo. I don't know if he's still alive because he was really in bad health. But so we asked him why, why'd you create this instead of that? And he just kept on, in between the smacking, he kept on telling us equality, equality, equality. That's why. And then we'd ask him other questions. We'd be like, well, should we, like stupid, like Dharma kid questions, like, I don't know, the questions you ask when you're like in a room with a Rinpoche and he smacked you and you're trying to like sound intelligent. So you're like, well, can I get into the Guru mind stream by the, and then he would just be like, equality. That was his answer to everything. It was equality, equality, equality. Now, Yogi Bhajan and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, they both have the same message, which is that the change of consciousness on the planet, just the change of the consciousness on the planet that's happening right now and that is being pressurized to happen right now is completely the responsibility of not just woman, but the Western woman, who is the most neurotic, and the hardest, the biggest head case of all. But the Western woman is the woman who is to lead the charge of a new archetype and a new civilization on the planet. So the Dalai Lama has said that, Yogi Bhajan knew it, and so for 40 years, he took the women and he trained them. He trained them to be leaders. He trained them to be wives. He trained them to be mothers. He trained them to be professionals. He trained them to be, executives. He trained them. 40 years, his whole lifetime here in the West was devoted to women. And then the men, Ram Dudham and I laugh about this because Ram Dudham teaches the Aquarian Man courses, and we want to do more of this because the teachings are amazing. And what he packed into those weekends are pretty amazing. But the guys were kind of like, after about 20 years, they're like, so we're here. And they were kind of the grumbling and complaining, and they were like, you take the women every single summer, and it started for 3 months, then it went to 2 months, then it went to a month, and now, we just have a very small amount of time to be together in this work, but everything's accelerating and things are happening faster. So he's like, all right. I'll give you guys a couple weekends. And how many was it? 3 weekends he did? I feel like he did 3 weekends over a couple months for this.
More than that. I think it was more like 6.
Okay. It wasn't much compared to the 40 summers that he did with the women, but and it was kind of all in one section. He finally decided, okay, men, here you go. I'm going to give you. And these teachings are just, there is so much amazing stuff in the Aquarian Man teachings that he gave. We call it Aquarian Man. He called it just, man to man, or the men teachings that he gave. So much packed into just that little amount of time. So you can imagine in the 40 years of these summer training camps, this is now our 3rd year of, we're actually adding a month this year, just so I have a little more time with you guys. 7 months. Last year was 6 months the year before. So this is our 3rd year of this kind of intensive women's training. And basically in the 6 months, in the 7 months, we take one lecture from one afternoon of one of these days of the 40 years of training. And we spend all 6 months on it. That's how deep the teachings are. It's pretty profound. I mean, we don't mean to. It's just things just start to unpack and open up and reveal themselves. And Hadi Jivan was making the point last year. He's like, all right, nobody believes us when we say that we're on a quest. I mean, some people believe us, but they think because of the way we're trained in the patriarchal Piscean education system, if it has the same name, I already took that class in college, I already got that credit. No, maybe that's how we're trained. So this is something I've been really like working with these past couple years, because what I call the work that we do, I call it the women's classroom, and it's a very different type of education. I'm not giving you a syllabus. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing at 3 o'clock and what page to turn to and what. This is a living, breathing experience of Shakti, the primal power. So that comes and manifests in all sorts of different ways, and it comes through each one of us in all sorts of different ways, the men and the women. Because the moment that a man aligns with the kind of worship of the primal power of a woman in all of the phases, his whole kind of purpose aligns, and something very powerful happens to the man. So this works, this is just good for everybody. But I was talking to, so last year, Hadi Jivan was like, all right, I'm gonna come over there on a Friday night. I'm gonna stop my Netflix queue. I'm gonna stumble over there because I'm a blind man. And I'm gonna give like some of the best lectures I've ever heard him give. Every woman in the house just weeping. He gave a lecture on when a man loves a woman that just blew us away. It changed women's relationships and marriages and patterns. It was just, so it was profound, and it's never the same. And we call it the same thing because that's the name that the master gave to me. When he sent me to, I was 20... I don't know how old I was. Was I 22? 22. But when he sent me to Yoga West, he sent me the summer he was still alive. I think it was the last summer he was still alive. And he sent me over to Yoga West, and he said, you're going to teach these women's classes 5 days a week. And at the time, I had one girlfriend. I have 4 brothers, one of them sitting in the back of the room, which I'm just so grateful for. This is what, but I'm getting to it. If your brother, father, lover, son won't sit in the room, I'm getting to that point in a second here, because we can make such a huge impact. They don't have to be in the room, but we're lucky that a couple of the men are here with us, because it makes a difference. It gives the women some hope, so I appreciate it. So I had one girlfriend, 4 brothers, all other male friends, male teachers. You know what I mean? My teachers were men. I grew up with men. This is just the way. And my mother was questionable. I love her, but our relationship was very interesting and so beautiful, very dynamic. She's a very dynamic woman. And I'm so grateful for that. But at the time, I'm in my early 20s, and as we know, if you have a kid that age, I have a kid that age. It's quite a fun thing to experience. You're like, whoa, wait a second. We were just like cool not that long ago, and now you're 20. And like, she explained to me last night what it means to slide into someone's DM. You hip on this? I was like, what? I guess it's you like a couple of things on their Instagram, they like a couple of things on your Instagram. All of a sudden you find a reason why to DM them, which is direct message for the old people in the room. You find a reason, or they find a reason to DM you or them, and then I guess 5 minutes later you're having sex with them. Thank you, Claire, for explaining that. I was like, okay. Great. And we were talking about the cultural differences because, in the 70s, people were doing that. You're just doing it in a club. It was the same thing. So, because she was trying to say, those are the sexual kind of habits of her generation are different. I'm like, no. Everybody was the same thing. It's just you're not sliding into someone's DM. You're just sliding into someone's, pile of Coke or whatever the difference was. It's basically the same thing. So Yogi Bhajan sent me to Yoga West, and he said, you're going to teach these. Oh, thanks. I got a Rishi cappuccino. Just has coconut oil in it. So he sent me to Yoga West. He said, you're going to teach the women's teachings. And so that's what I did for almost a decade. I taught every single morning at Yoga West the women's teachings. And that was little did I know that very quickly it became my greatest passion. And very quickly it healed all of my relationships and healed my relationship with my mother and my relationship with my body, and my relationship with myself and my relationship with my lovers and my father and, whatever, all of the people in my life. And so he knew better than I knew. So that's why I feel very strongly that the continuation of these women's teachings, and we're just kind of blown away because we just keep on kind of uncovering things that are just unbelievable. And I can tell you, I mean, you don't have to do it, and you may not, although we've had women who do. If you put to practice some of this year particularly, we're going to work with the mother. This is why when we're talking about this, we're going to work with the mother deeply, because I'll tell you something that is very interesting about Yogi Bhajan's teachings. He said that a woman's relationship issues are not father issues. They're mother issues. Very different than the Freudian, Jungian kind of model. So I'm really very interested in unpacking these kind of just fantastic, rich, fertile experiences of the power of the Adi Shakti and our own personal relationship with our mother, our own personal relationship with what the kind of mother is inside of us, our creative power, our own personal relationship with the kind of archetypal energy of the Divine Mother, and all sorts of things. So that's part of one of the themes we're going to be doing this year, and I can tell you from my own personal experience the fruitful nature of this work. And if you, and the men in here are going to be like, girl, can I get, I'm going to get like I'm going to get a standing O from my men in here. If you have a relational issue that is either showing up in multiple kind of versions of itself, meaning different DMs that you've slid yourself into, whatever DM you're sliding into right now. I just like the slide part. It's like so creepy. I'm like, can it be something else? Like just you DM them? No, you slide into the DM. So whatever kind of different incarnations of your relational issues that have shown up over the course of your relationship history, which we'll be working with that, or the patterns in your long-term relationship, it's all the same, same, but different. If you're in relationship with another woman, it's complex. All right, so you guys, that's a complex and different type of relationship. Although these polarity principles play out in same-sex relationship, different sex relationship, asexual relationship, whatever identification of relationship you're in, they play out in all of them. But if you're with a man and you're having relational issues, first and foremost, the issues are rooted at the trauma of the mother wound. Boom. And then I'm sure there's some father stuff in there too. You pepper that in for like a little flair, just a fun little twist. So that's there too. But the mother, that primal relationship and your communication of that primal relationship, it is coloring, determining, and patterning your romantic relationships. So we can be, clear on that one. Number two, the man has it a lot harder than you. And many of you have heard me say this over and over again, but you are very, very complex. He, again, if you're in a relationship with another woman, it's a complex. You guys, there's a bit of a different complexity layer there. But he is very simple. And he tells you what he wants and he means it. And you tell him what you want and you don't mean it. And so if you're having relational problems, Yogi Bhajan, he was hardcore with the women. Hardcore. So this is an intro tonight to the women's teachings and immense grace. And it really isn't for the faint of heart, because we were talking about doing a meme, doing I shouldn't tell them our great idea, but we were talking about doing like a series of memes, because we're in, one of our just numerous photo shoots the other day. My boyfriend's like, I'm sorry, you're doing another photo shoot? I was like, yeah, I'm a model. International. I said, we were with Honey Jeevan, and there was a picture of me like going like this, because we were all taking pictures, and I was like, no more pictures. So we're in this photo shoot, and Allegra's like, I don't really feel like getting my picture taken. Allegra is the supermodel, like literally. And she's like, I don't really feel like getting my picture taken. I was like, no, just lie down here. You're fine. You're fine. How did that come up, my joke about you being fine? Oh, yeah. Not for the faint of heart. So immense grace. My way that I deal with women's problems is you're fine. Just you're fine, because you are fine. But if you're having relational issues, these relational issues you have it so much easier than they have it, which means that you have a lot of power to totally recalibrate your relational experience. And because women, the feminine wants connection and intimacy, and one of the reasons why we come together in women's community, and you've heard me say this, but I'll say it again because I really mean it. If you actively work in women's community, in intimacy, in love, in deprogramming your competitiveness and your kind of weird, like just being in a room with women, you'll see when we go to Mount Madonna, we wanted to make it really dramatic, go to Mount Madonna to work on our mother issues. But you'll see the moment you get in, there's a whole kind of thing that happens in a room of women, all sorts of, and Yogi Bhajan said, in one of these, I just spoke to this woman about like her experience at these women's camps, and she said it used to take about 2 weeks for the women to kind of de-thaw around each other because of, and this was not even in the time we're in now, but it would take about 2 weeks for the women to like, just kind of stop being bristly and competitive and weird and judgmental and fearful and just for that stuff to kind of slough off. And we only have, in these retreats that we come together in immense grace, we only have 3 nights and 4 days. Is that what it is? 3 nights and 4 days. So we have to really accelerate the process. But anytime we come into, we're already clearing all sorts of stuff. That's why being in women's community is so powerful. The other thing that being in women's community does is it nourishes a level of intense kind of thirst that you have for intimacy that you will never get from these nice men. And this is coming to the part where we leave your man alone if he drinks beer, if he sits on the couch, if he, whatever he does. Honey Jeevan and I were talking about this for the Aquarian woman, the Creating Aquarian Child course. It's like so much can be done, and so much just incredible of your wild imaginings of having the type of relationship you want. So much of it can be done through your own psychomagnetic, powerful, poised projection. As a woman, we have so much power. So we don't need them. It's really nice for them to come in, but if you are attracted to the guys, we were sitting around a table one time, everybody was kind of like, they were asking, like, who are you attracted to? Who are you attracted to? Like, what's your kind of type? And I was like, oh, I like guys who, like, hate women and ride motorcycles. Whatever your type is, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Just because you've decided that you want to start to do some sort of spiritual work, it has nothing to do with him. Leave him alone. And then when you start to decide how you're going to kind of relate to the things that you want to have a bigger experience of in your relationships, everything changes. And I say it over and over again, and Andy always says to me, you just try to get it, angle it in another way. If you took this one thing, you don't have to come to Immense Grace, we never have to see you again, take it, practice it, your life will completely and totally change. You take the thing you want to have a bigger experience of, whether it's in a date. Because I say to the women, I said to someone today, date people you're not attracted to. If you're having an issue with the ones you are attracted to, they always tend to be a certain type. I highly recommend dating people that you're much lower attracted to. Somewhere around 25% is what Alison Armstrong says, and I think that's a good kind of number. So about 25% attracted to. Because that means that you're not magnetically attracted to the subconscious pattern cycle. So you're kind of not that attracted to them because it's not fulfilling the magnetic, subconscious, familial mother thing. So it's really good. So if you're at a date with someone that you're 25% attracted to, and we can find lots of those. Where have all the good men gone? Well, don't worry. You can find somebody you're 25% attracted to right now, out on the street, right? Kava, okay? And then and you do the same thing with the guy that you've been like putting up with for 35 years and you hate his guts, whichever one. So your date that you're 25% attracted to, or the, guy you've been living with that you're resentful of because he's a, bag of potatoes or whatever your thing is. You decide what you're going to have a bigger experience of. And you relentlessly, with vigor, with spiritual strength, and with projection, with breath, with all sorts of kind of heart, you have that bigger experience. Because there's something beautiful about that man. There's something so beautiful about that man or your partner of whatever sort. And so you see it in them, and you see it in them, and you compliment them on it, and you imagine them, that part of them becoming stronger and more vibrant, and you give them feedback immediate. For women and men, very important. If you want a man to get something and change, you have to give immediate feedback if he's done something that is, hurting your feelings. And there's a way to do that, but I can't tell you everything tonight. There's a way to do that will get you everywhere. Most of it just has to do with your sound current, because you can tell someone anything and who knew that? Who is one of the most famous women of all modern history who knew how to use the sound current? Marilyn Monroe. And I studied Happy Birthday, Mr. President. I watched it over and over again, and then I performed it for John for his birthday one year. I did the whole thing. Because her sound current's just so incredible. But so you can do so much just with your sound current. You can all the things that you want him to do, but instead you get like like who? And he's like, but I'm very proud to say, and John will validate this, I can get a total amen from my partner of almost 7 years. I never nag. Never. It is the killer of all killers. But I do give feedback and tell him to do things all the time. But he has to think it's his idea. So there's a whole way to do that. It's a technology, and Yogi Bhajan taught it. And then we get the questions like, well, isn't that manipulation? It's like, well, how is your radical audience or a radical honesty helping you in your relationships? Because if you come direct at a man's ego, you will never get what you want. Never. So you have to, and this is the post-feminist kind of hangover that we're dealing with, which is like, this is my truth, this is your truth, this is my space, and it's like, who wants to have sex with that? So then women are like, I'm very accomplished, and and I don't really, and it's like, there's no place to be. So the men feel unneeded, and so they go and they date, women who are younger. See, we think it's just because they're younger. It's not. It's because they're more open, more receptive. Because that's just, we tend to be that way when we're younger. And then I'll never forget the day. Early on when I had met Hudman Jot, she came over to my house for this astrology reading back in the day when I did things like that. And she said to me, I don't want to grow up and be a woman who's bitter. Be like it was just such a heartfelt thing. Good job, you haven't done it. Because I met Hudman Jot when she was in her early 20s, and so that that's what we do. We and then the sound current goes off, and then we don't get what we want. So, dating someone where you're have kind of a low level attraction, like you could maybe kiss them. You know what I mean? Like you could give it a go, see how it goes. Because that's kind of how you feel about your long-term relationships. True or not true? You're like, I could give that a go, but I think I'd rather read a book. Same, true? So if you take this thing and you make it bigger, this thing that you love about the person, whatever it is, like there's something you can find, and you just start to, and it's very energetic. And what I'd like to work with tonight is some of the subtle aspects of being in the power of the Shakti, because what we're creating through this work and continuing the lineage of Yogi Bhajan's teachings is we're creating a whole new archetype of feminine leadership. And that leadership comes from a space of radiant, embodied, powerful, poised, consolidated energy. And when you start to cultivate that, the whole universe will bow at your feet. That's the Adi Shakti principle. And I mean, women, men, children, you command the creative flow of every situation you're in. And we have, why is everyone so obsessed with Beyonce? There's some reasons, but Beyonce has pushed a new archetype of the feminine into the collective consciousness. Like it or not, it's a mother, it's a mogul, it's sexy, it's in command, and the whole world. Adele won the Grammy, by the way. Did you know that? No, Adele won the Grammy. No, not Beyonce, Adele. But the whole world, there was like one little article about Adele winning the Grammy, because it was like, what did Beyonce wear? And she's pregnant, and oh my God. That's what we're talking about. She has somehow hit the vibration. Now, we live on a polarity planet, but she's somehow hit the vibration of this kind of way powerful Shakti energy. And I mean, the whole world bows at the woman's feet. It doesn't matter what she says. It doesn't matter what she does. It doesn't matter the quality of the music. None of it. That's totally available to you. But it's going to take deep programming and opening up and getting brave, and getting honest, and getting intimate with yourself and other women to make that happen. And then when you come to your date of 25% or your old man, and you're not feeling like, when you come there, you're just so nourished by what is going on in you and with you and through you that you just become so radiant and magnetic. And every time we do these immense grace, I mean, everybody, the single women, like the married women are like, oh, I always say be careful what you wish for, because the married women are like, just wish one night I could just like go out on the town with like, don't worry, girl, your boyfriend hasn't been born yet vibes. Like those are the married women, and then the single women really want to meet a man, or a woman, or whatever the thing is. Like that's always, welcome to the feminine. We always want something. Like we're voracious. We're creators and destroyers. So we're voracious. But the moment you start to command the energy through you and in you and pattern this kind of self-worship, because that's the pattern, is self-worship and then worship of other women. The moment you start to do that, the whole world, I mean, just like, like a Disney movie of what was that, The Beauty and the Beast, like it's like the whole world starts to be in a concerto of worship of you. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you can fit into your skinny jeans. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. And that's what we're working with, because that's a whole new archetype of feminine power. And, as I said, this is my little joke I put out there. This was a couple years ago. I put out, what would happen if we had a, big group of women, a majority of the group of women, of the population of women on the planet who were secure and felt good about themselves. I mean, we cycle, so it's just part of the deal. You're gonna have a day where you feel not, and you're gonna have a day where it's not like, but who fundamentally have a self-concept of dignity. What would happen if somebody answered #Armageddon? But it's true. And that's why there's a lot of money being made, like billions and billions and trillions of dollars being made on you, even in the wellness industry, on you thinking there's something wrong with you. So just take that. Okay, if I never see you again, go and find the thing that you can have a bigger experience of and just make it just so beautiful. Expand it, put your prayer around it, activate it, invoke it, envelop it, radiate with it, pray for it, just bring it out. And you can do this in just one date, just slip it into the DM. You just can, radiate, bring it and open up and just see as a practice what all of a sudden the man where of all the good men have gone is sitting right in front of you. And it doesn't really take that much. We're just all so kind of fill in the blank. What could we put there? Fucked up. We're just all so, whatever you want to put there, distracted with our own suffering. But to have the kind of relationship everybody wants to have, whether it's whatever relationship, but to have those types of relationships, it's costing not less than everything. Rip my heart out, and costing not less than everything. So that's why people don't do it, just FYI. It's much easier to put on the Netflix queue and put on some sweatpants and call it a day. You know what I mean? It's much easier to do that. So this is why people don't do it. So if it's not, this is a pure Yogi Bhajan teaching. If you're not having the experience of whatever the thing is, meeting more people or having, more love in your current relationship or just being more creative or whatever your thing is. If you're not having the experience, then you have systematically, hypnotically created a different experience in your reality. Systematically and hypnotically created a different experience. So in order to have another experience, you're going to have to systematically and hypnotically start to create a different experience. And with the women who put this into practice, I decided a couple years back that John is the best man that has ever walked this planet. And I really don't care what he does or says. That's the experience I have, because he is the best man. I've convinced myself of it now. It took it was a little moment there, is he? No. And then now it's just that's the experience I have. So it's just practice. And that's what the training part of this is that you have to practice, because you've practiced the other stuff just rampantly with no adult supervision. It's true. So I'd like to work with the R subtlety tonight. Yogi Bhajan says the first language between a mother and child is first the child falls in love with her heartbeat. So the first love, your first love, was the heartbeat of your mother. And in all of her humanity and all of her aliveness was the heartbeat of your mother. And so I'd like to go back to that original love. So whatever your relationship is in the kind of 3D with your mother, whether she's in body or not in body, to go back to that primal love so that can be something that grows in you. And then he said the second language between a child and her mother or his mother is the language of silence, the subtle, embryonic, all the languages that are in silence. And so much can be done in that space. And so we cultivate as women our subtlety and our ability to communicate, because women communicate, so much communication without saying a word. So when you start to command that type of communication, it becomes a place where you're just literally creating just beauty in every movement, in every breath, in every way that you look, every way that you gaze, 1,000 ships were launched at just one gaze of one woman. Not one word, not any rhetoric, just one gaze. So I'd like to work on that kind of subtlety tonight. And then when you take it, and the men in here can attest, it's so soothing for a woman to be subtle that way, because we live in such a kind of gross, dense kind of experience that when a woman has a power to be subtle, but powerfully subtle, just worship. You will receive worship from the guy who's checking you out, or the woman who's checking you out at at Air One, to the coffee. You will notice a massive difference in the way that people are responding to you in your life. This is a whole new level of real feminine leadership. Good? So I'd like to work with this, these primal languages, so you can start to work with them in yourself. And then we get into some self-psychology practices. Once we kind of get into this subtle space, then we can start to self-talk with ourselves. Yogi Bhajan was a big proponent of, once you kind of work the subtle space, then you kind of get into the space where you're actually talking to yourself, out loud. Hey, girl, you look good. But think about how much you don't do that. How evil you are to yourself. So it's actually a very powerful practice to start to actually speak to yourself. Okay.